As you heard just a moment ago, there was some reference to closing the Strait of Hormuz. Here's Energy Secretary Wright, how he was responding to the threat that Iran could close those straits. Watch this.
This is the lifeblood of global oil flows, big flows for natural gas as well. Everyone's predicting for sure over $100 oil is just around the corner. Then we have strong leadership from our president. Precision strikes over the weekend. Everyone thinks that's another $20 on the price of oil. And here we are Monday evening, and oil dropped below $70 a barrel. And more importantly for American consumers,
well, it's down to $64 a barrel as we speak, 64 and change. There you go. Power the Future founder Daniel Turner joining me now. How far down will oil prices go in your analysis? Well, we've had folks on the show this morning, two actually, who are saying it's going to go below $60 a barrel. Where do you stand on that?
Well, it was at 57 not many days ago, and I think we could easily return to that because the markets see a lot of resilience in the oil markets nationwide in our energy industry. And you know, you compare what we were doing just last year, 13.2 million barrels a day, but oil was over $85 a barrel. And we're roughly producing as much oil now, but the big difference is that the future sees permitting, it sees financing, it sees pipelines, and so all of that invisible hand, as Adam Smith would say, it sees these market conditions and says there's nothing to be worried about, and oil prices are stable. That's the difference of sound energy policy, not just on our economy, but on global politics and on world peace.
Is this going to filter through to gas prices and diesel prices? They're going to be down significantly?
100%. And it's so important, especially for diesel prices, because we are in the midst of agriculture season, right? So, you know, I'm coming to you from my rural sheep farm. You know, I know about diesel prices. Everything that we're growing right now, those prices are affected by diesel. And so people were worrying not long ago, what was the price of eggs? Why is food so expensive? It took a little while for prices to trickle up, but it did because of Biden's bad policies. Prices will trickle down. It's going to take a little time, but $60 a barrel oil is going to help it tremendously.
Daniel, in your opinion, is the energy business still being held back by Biden-era regulations?
Only because these things take a little while to come online, right? You can shut down oil and gas very quickly, and Biden did that. To turn them back on is going to take a little time. And if we look at the first administration, president was inaugurated in January of 17. It was mid-18 until you really felt the stable markets, and we didn't have an Israel-Iran conflict. So it's going to take probably another couple of months. We're headed in the right direction, but the damage that the Biden administration did, just think of the financing. Right? When you had Gary Gensler as the SEC chair punishing banks for lending to Wall Street needs a reboot. They need confidence that they can lend again to the fossil fuel industry. So these resets are going to take some time, but it will happen.
New York, the New York State, looking to build one of the first nuclear power plants in decades. Has Trump streamlined the permitting process to get this thing going?
He really did. His executive order on nuclear energy helped a lot. I applaud the governor for making this decision. I realize that she is motivated by re-election next year. She wants to keep her job. It shouldn't take an election to do the right thing on energy. Her predecessor, who's up for a mayoral election today, right? He closed nuclear power plants. He closed coal plants, and electricity prices in New York are up 40% almost. And I'm a native New Yorker. My whole family is watching this right now in New York City. New York is struggling desperately from a lack of energy, and unless they have sound energy policies, the city is going to continue to hemorrhage their strongest, their brightest, their richest. They're going to move to Florida. They're going to move elsewhere because they can't afford to stay in New York, and that's tragic for the greatest city in the world.
How long is it going to take to get those pipelines open so that we can get, say, nat gas coming out of Pennsylvania and getting into New York and New York State? How long is that going to take?
The president signed that executive order on the energy emergency, that pipeline that comes from Pennsylvania. You know, that could be something that, in theory, it could be done by the end of this year. The industry can move quickly when it gets its act together, meaning government gets out of the way. But this pipeline, the Constitution pipeline, this should not have been a controversial decision. And it doesn't have to go to New York. It has to go all throughout New England. Massachusetts is in terrible shape with electricity prices because because of their lack of natural gas. New Hampshire, Maine, right? New England is really, really in a precarious situation, and they dodged the winter, but you can't have fingers crossed energy policy. Let's hope we don't have a heat wave. Let's hope we don't have a storm. So we need sound energy policy for the safety and security of the American people.
Daniel Turner, good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us, sir. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.